just a little bit about some themes that we hear from retailers and also in other industries of things that are important, right, in terms of transforming the way in which your employees work and that you engage with your customers. So there's lots of focus today on exploring new forms of communication, bringing our employees and our customers together to seamlessly be able to collaborate, focusing on culture and well-being, right? How do we attract and retain employees? Because we know that that has impact to our bottom line and to our customer experience. In retail especially, we hear that schedule management and time management is super important. And so thinking of new ways to transform that experience to make the creation and lifecycle management of schedules, even down to the shift worker, much easier and accessible. Thinking of new ways to empower our employees to learn and to share information and to collaborate on learning content, right? So we can keep everybody happy and create a culture of sort of growth mindset. And then thinking of ways to digitize and reimagine your internal productivities and processes. How do you take things that have historically lived maybe as a paper-based process and think of moving them into the digital space? And then, bringing all of this together in what we like to call a connected tech ecosystem. So, a single pane of glass through which a user can access the people, the content, and the tools that are important to them, and doesn't require them to have, tens of apps on a single device, especially a mobile device, that's really potentially hard and creates friction for them to be able to be productive. There's a really tremendous opportunity with Microsoft Teams to consolidate and transform how your users interact with each other and with the tools that are important for them to get their jobs done. And Brianna, I'll let you just take us to the next slide. Great. So thinking of Teams as this digital hub and that single application entry point through which a user can access not just the people that they're working with, but that content and the tools that support those themes that I talked about just a moment ago. So imagine coming to Teams and being able to find not just your teammates, but being able to see information around your shifts and your schedules, being able to access learning content that comes from your organization, being able to participate in feedback and polls, being able to manage your daily processes like inspections and store walks. Even being able to collaborate with your customers, right, on orders or things that are happening actually in the physical locations, your retail stores or your warehouses. All of this is actually the opportunity that we see with leveraging Teams and really creating this tailored digital workspace that's meaningful to your organization and your employees so you can get your work done without having to access lots of tools and overhead and friction in order to do so. We're going to spend some time today kind of deep diving into some of these various aspects and showing you examples sort of in the flesh. And we'll even show you some work that our partners have done to transform how retailers can provide incredible experiences to your customers and to your employees. If you don't mind just going to the next slide. One thing I wanted to mention here is I like to think of Teams like a series of building blocks. So we provide out-of-the-box functionality like chat and calling, and the ability to organize people in more structured ways via Teams and channels. But we also provide some first-party experiences like walkie-talkie and shift management. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. But building on that sort of first-party capability that we provide, we also have the broader Microsoft ecosystem. So if you think of everything that we provide through Office 365, like Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, think about Power Platform. And then all of the other services under the Microsoft umbrella are also accessible to your users via Teams. And then where I think things get really exciting is looking at the existing investments that you have in third-party and line of business applications that power your organization. And so in Teams, we have an app ecosystem with today actually over 1,600 third-party applications that are available. And there's a whole host of integrations that these providers have built to help your users do more through the single pane of glass. And obviously, this idea of line of business or custom applications is really exciting as well, too. We provide a whole developer community and developer platform through which you can create bespoke experiences for your users. if anybody's interested, like Brianna mentioned, we can offer up some assistance in terms of like envisioning and wireframing how you might leverage the platform to transform your customer scenarios and your employee scenarios. But really, sky is the limit. And it's putting these pieces together to create that tailored digital hub that makes sense for your use cases, for your employees, and for the experiences that you want to drive. With that, we'll start to dig into some examples and ways in which you can use these puzzle pieces to create these tailored experiences. And I'm going to hand it over to Allison to walk us through this first section.
Thanks, Frida. So I'm going to start out talking about the communication aspect of Teams. Again, I think everyone's probably familiar with these tools from an information worker perspective. You sit in an office, and what does that mean? But once you start going out to your frontline workers, and it's a different experience for them. They're probably not used to it, and it does require a little bit of planning ahead of time. The first thing that I'm going to talk about is your teams and channels organization. Hear the question all the time, not only from retail, but basically from everyone. What's the best way for me to set up my teams and channels? I hate to give the answer, but it depends. That's the beauty of Teams, is that it can do whatever you need it to do to meet you where you are. And you should be thinking about, how does a store communicate today? Are they communicating between stores? Are they only communicating within their own store? Are they communicating within a region? It may be all of those things when you look at a leadership level, but really think about it from the perspective of the frontline worker and the person that's on the floor, and what's important to them and what will make their experience as streamlined and easy as possible. Um, this should not be something that IT is deciding. This should be something that you're talking about with the store, with the people that are on the floor, and taking that feedback and creating pilots. Um, don't try to boil the ocean in a single day. Just take one store, one department, and try out a structure and have some use cases and work with the employees and the colleagues and get their feedback on what's working and what's not working. So I'm going to show you just a couple of examples to get you thinking about what some of these structures could look like. The reason why this is important is it really is a building block for all those other things that Frida just mentioned, shifts and tasks. You're going to want this organizational structure in place before you start moving on to those next steps, because it's going to be the crux of what everyone is going to go to. So I'm signed in as Megan. I'm a leadership management type person, starting off in Viva Connections with my dashboard for everything that I need for the day. If I go into Teams, just created a couple of different examples for you. So one of the examples I mentioned was, is it a region where people communicate? So you could have, this is the region, these are all the stores within the region. Does that make the most sense for your organization? Or do you want all of the people in your bakery department to be in a team and have that be the main communication aspect that they use? I think probably most customers that I work with are more along the lines of wanting a structure for their particular store. Yes, they may need to communicate to other stores or to a region, but when they're thinking about their frontline workers, it really is within the store that they need to communicate within their own department and maybe within different departments. So you can see I just created channels for each of the different departments within the store, even created a private channel for the leadership of the store. So this they would be able to access, and no one else within the structure would be able to get into it, only the people that are specifically added to it. So private channels are another option to set up those communications. And this can be the foundation for doing shift handoffs, interdepartment communications, all kinds of things. So again, this is kind of the foundation of where everything starts. The other thing that we hear a lot when people are getting started on deploying teams to their frontline workers is, we do want to do teams. We want to do teams per store, per region, whatever it is. How can we do a lot of teams all at once? I'm not going to touch on it in detail today, but I am going to give a plug for our tool called Deploy Teams at Scale. Using that tool gives you the ability to deploy 500 teams, up to 500 teams in a batch using a PowerShell script. And you're going to hear Brianna talk about a poll to help us structure what the next session is going to cover. So certainly Deploy Teams at Scale is one of those things that we can cover more in depth, but if not, we can certainly give you the information on how you can educate yourself and reach out if you have more questions about it, but know that Deploy Teams at Scale is a tool that's out there and available for you. So now that you have your foundation set, some of the specific communication tools that you'll find, walkie-talkie is something that we created within Teams, recognizing that a lot of retailers, a lot of customers use walkie-talkie in general. So we wanted to pull that in and make it easy. Kind of hard to do a virtual demo, so I'm just going to play this video real quick. And actually, let me stop sharing because I don't think I shared my audio when I did it. Just reshare. Yeah.
Hey y'all, it's Zoe again as a member of the Teams team here at Microsoft. When I worked in retail, I had to carry so many devices, a clunky radio and a point of sales device. It was exhausting. I felt like I needed one of those industrial belts to help my hands free, to do exactly what I needed to do. And we all know an industrial belt doesn't go with every outfit. With walkie-talkie and Teams, you can have a push-to-talk experience on your mobile device that instantly connects with you with anyone on your team. Not only can you help customers, but you can also communicate with your entire team on the same device. It's a game changer. Let's see how it works together. First, make sure you have Teams open on your device and click on the 3 dots to find the walkie-talkie icon or select on the menu below. Then you'll select a channel at the top left of your screen to choose who you want to connect with. You'll notice some recommended channels based on where your team is already using it, so you can easily jump into relevant conversations. Then simply press Connect. Once connected, you can select the people icon to see who else is available. This is unlike a traditional radio, where you can talk and you don't actually know who's listening. Then, when you're ready to talk, simply press and hold the big purple button in the middle of the screen and release when you're done. Or if you have a device like the Zebra TC57X, you can press and hold an external hardkey button to easily access walkie-talkie. For example, if I need to check to see if there's another mug in the back room for a customer, I simply press and hold the button in the middle of the screen and talk. Jenny, could you check to see if there's another white mug from the center display in the back for a customer? Thank you. And releasing it when I'm done. And Jenny can see exactly who is speaking to her with my picture showing up on her phone. And that's it. So whether you need help from the back room, to talk to someone in another location, or to let a coworker know to bring out the next curbside pickup order, walkie-talkie in Teams turns your
So that's walkie-talkie. Recognize that customers use that today. It's there, it's available, but what we want to challenge you to do is to actually think about communication differently than you have in the past. By using Teams, you have the ability to do one-to-one or group chats, one-to-one or group calling, messages, or channel communications. One of the things that I want to show you is that if you're using shifts in conjunction with Teams, what you have the ability to do is to chat with anybody that's on shift for a particular department at one time in a very easy way. So let me go to my chat, and I'm going to start a new chat, and I have a schedule out there for my e-commerce group. So if I do an @ tag and I start typing in e-commerce, I'll see that come up. There's one person from the shift that's working. So Adele is there. Can you check on? So I send that chat, and I'm just going to switch over to my digital devices. So this is Adele, and this is Isaiah. You will see, hopefully. And it didn't go through, but you can see this past chat. There you go. Can you check on an order for me? You can see that Adele received that message. But if I go to Isaiah, you'll see he did not receive that message because he's not currently on shift for the e-commerce. So that's a great way to communicate with only the people that are working at that time, and you're not sending out messages to people that aren't on shift and may not be able to answer. The other thing that we like to remind people is an option, because again, a lot of times people would rather do audio messages or even video messages. You can do that within Teams. This is a chat that I sent earlier to Isaiah, asking if he could check on if we had any more French roast ground coffee in the back. And then he replied. Let's see if it. Yeah, I don't think that it played, but from the mobile device. But that's an easy way for your employees to use the communication tools. Again, things that you can never do with walkie-talkie. And then that way, you're meeting people where they are, using the tools that they want, where they want to do it. And it's more similar to their experience that they have with their personal devices. So those are just a couple of the communication features that are out there. Definitely just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more that's available, but just trying to emphasize that, what you use today with walkie-talkie, lots more capabilities, lots more possibilities that you have with group chats, group calling, messages, and Teams, and really opens up the floor for better communications. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kelly.
Thank you so much, Allison. I appreciate it. All right, everyone. My name is Kelly Cleland. I am a Senior Customer Success Manager for the Retail and Consumer Goods vertical here at Microsoft. And I'm very passionate about what I'm going to share with you today. So there's research that's shown that about half of employees in retail complain that outdated tech keeps them from being productive. And frontline workers are such a critical part of our workforce, and it's so important for us to provide an environment that really helps them accelerate their productivity, their onboarding, their learning, their growth, and help them feel like they're a connected part of your culture and community. And so today I'm going to focus my demo on really end user productivity, but kind of pulling in some of those themes that I just mentioned. All right, so let me go ahead and share my screen here. Give me just 1 second. All right, hopefully everyone can see my mobile device. Before I get started here, let me minimize you, Allison. Before I get started here, I just want to set the stage for what I'm going to be sharing with you today. So I am looking at this from a lens of the end user, someone who is actually on your front line. Nothing that I'm going to show you today is custom. Everything that I'm going to demo could all start to be implemented by your organization tomorrow. We really want to take advantage of what you own. So that's where we're going to focus on today. So Allison already talked a little bit about the team structure. So you can see here that I have something similar set up. So my tenant today is set up for Kentoso Coffee, and I'm also Megan, but in my demo tenant is her persona. I am a barista. And so that is the framework for what I'm going to be using for the demo, and really showing you how does Megan seamlessly execute her day? How does she streamline productivity with apps and automation? And overall, how do we increase her job satisfaction through engagement? Really quick before I get started, of course, as Allison mentioned, you can personalize this experience and set up your teams in any way. Your launching point could be Viva Connections through that customized dashboard. It could be Teams. There's a lot of flexibility that's built into this platform to really tailor to your business needs. And absolutely everything that you're seeing here, so regardless of the launching point, what apps that you have installed, and the structure of your team, those are all controlled through policies. Even the way that you're logging in and out of a shared device, we're more than happy to go into those details if needed. And also, before I get started, I would hate to not mention that Microsoft has a focus on accessibility. So for those individuals that may have a visible or non-visible disability, of course, we have things like immersive reader and high contrast. Not only that, but a lot of times English is not frontline workers, English is not their primary language. So of course we have a plethora of languages that are supported. We have chat translation, just a whole lot of features to really help them be so productive in their day. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. And let's see how Megan here seamlessly executes her day. So Allison talked a little bit about shifts, but there's some really rich features and capabilities. And there was a great question that came across in the chat if you didn't see it, just about integration of workforce management systems. So yes, absolutely, that integration exists where shifts can be your front end, really keeping the user in the flow of work. And that's so important. I cannot stress enough and tell you, don't underestimate the value of empowering your associates to have control over their schedules. About 20 years ago, I did catering. Literally my favorite employer to this date. I loved them so much because of the fact that way back then, they actually did, it was all online scheduling, and I had a lot of flexibility in terms of picking up parties and swapping parties. It was all online. They were really ahead of their time. You have no idea, just having, as an end user, being able to have some control over your schedule, the value that that brings in an individual, not even to mention reducing operational overhead. All right, so let's dive in. Looking at Megan's shifts here, I can see that, right, I'm a barista and I am on shift for the Citrus Park store here from 5 a.m. to 2 p.m. I have the ability to see not only my shift for the day, of course, I can click into to get details, but I can take a look at my full schedule of shifts, and I can click into any one of these, and I can see what are my activities for the day, what shift am I working, what am I working for? This is morning barista. I have the option to swap or to offer this shift up to someone. Of course, all of the approval flows on the back end require manager approval, so it's not like it just is auto approved. This is something that, of course, potentially the manager of the store is going to have to go in, or whoever approves it, to allow for that swap to happen. But lots of flexibility in terms of, again, giving Megan control over her schedule, allowing her to see her schedule digitally, avoiding her from having to come into the store to see a paper schedule that's sticking up on a corkboard. Not only that, but I can also see any open shifts that I have the potential to pick up. So in this particular case, Megan works a lot, so there's conflicts with all the open shifts that are available. But if I didn't have a conflict as Megan, I would be able to come in here and I would be able to pick up this particular shift. And of course, that approval would go to the manager. And then what I love about this is that I can also see the entire team that's on shift here. So I'm looking at the team shift and I can see who's working with me today. I can see who are the cashiers, who are the managers, and who are the baristas that are going to be buddied up with me today for the morning, and then potentially who's coming on the evening shift. and I can look out ahead as well. So this is so helpful. In addition to that, Allison showed it, but I have the ability to chat with people on shift. So right, there are tags that are created here for the baristas, the cashiers, and the manager. So at any point in time, I could chat with them right here, as you see this button here on the right-hand side. But also in the context of a channel, I have the ability to just mention those on-shift people. A little tag will come up and say on-shift managers. And I have the ability to just chat with just those individuals. Really, really powerful. All right, so moving on, of course, clock in, clock out, managing my schedule, making sure that I'm aware of what I need to do today for anything that's tied into my shift is detail as I showed you. The next thing that I would do is check my activity feed. So it's really important for me to understand, right? I don't have a lot of time as a frontline worker. I just need to know what I need to do, and I need those notifications to bubble up at the top because I don't have time to go sifting through team channels and chats and to figure out what it is that I need to be doing. So notifications are extremely powerful. So you can see here at the top that I've got 2 urgent tasks that I need to get done. So I can immediately click in those details, and it's actually going to take me to that task to give me all the details of what it is that I need to do. I'm going to come back to task in just a minute, but I at least wanted to show you that it takes you right to where the conversation is or whatever it is that I need to do. In addition to that, so just I'd like to talk a little bit about, in the notification here as well, modernizing stand-ups. And this was also a question that came across about, can you have, everyone a constant sort of meeting that's flowing where you're able to meet with anybody in your store at any point in time? So I have set up here an actual, it's a channel meeting for the entire Citrus Park store here. And so you can see that Megan received a notification that the daily store stand-up, it was posted. So as Megan, I couldn't attend the stand-up, but I have access to this recording for me to go back. So regardless of when this stand-up took place, you have an entire store that's informed of anything that they need to focus on for the day. And these things, when you talk about modernizing your stand-ups, these don't need to be long, complicated things. Quick updates on what's happening in the store, any new product announcements, et cetera, safety awareness, really it's endless. But the thing is that it helps individuals consume that information in a quick manner in one place. And then you also have your persistent chat as well. That really helps you stay on top of everything because you'll see all the recordings, daily stand-up recordings that happen and all the notes that go along with it, ensuring that everyone is aware of what's happening in the store. Not only that, but when we talk about store information, when I think about stores, I think about when I walk into one still, and again, I was in the hospitality industry for a long time, and I still think about the digital cork boards where policies are hung and where news is posted, announcements and schedules and all those things. So I think about those digitizing those break room boards and really leveraging Teams to make that experience really rich and more accessible and drive engagement. And again, the benefit of being able to roll up those notifications for what's really, really important. So here I have the store drip, which is essentially for the Citrus Park store here, allowing bubbling up of information. So I actually have a digital bulletin board here. So we'll just take the idea of that cork board, and now it becomes this app that's available to you inside of Teams that's built on Power Apps that's allowing me to see information that I need to know. This is just an option. This isn't something you have to use. There's a lot of ways that you can parse down information, but these are bulletins that are specifically posted in the store. So communications could come down from corporate in a bulleted fashion or other mechanism for communication, and whether that's connections or here like inside of the team. But there's flexibility for what a store is able to do and how they're able to communicate out to their employees that work in that store. So you can see here there's a number of updates that are posted in employee resources where I can get more information here. And for this one, it's a particular training and it's got a link off to that training. So it keeps me up to date in terms of that, we'll just say that virtual digitized break room board that all of us are used to. The last thing is an individual is that, skilling is also something that's extremely important, right? We need to make sure that employees are staying on top of their required training or just training, optional training that we're wanting them to take. And of course, it's very easy to pull through skilling and learnings into the Teams app here, whether it be via a learning app that you're pulling through a third-party app, or whether it's Viva Learning. I think my bandwidth is moving a little slow at the moment. But here, I'll just tell you what was here since it's loading so slow, is that I had 3 customer service videos that I had pulled through here specifically inside of this customer learning tab that are automatically pulling through and making that available inside of a tab, inside of this team, inside of this store. So it's very nice because, again, you're making that content more accessible on the go and providing that on-the-job training and that development for those users. So just a great way. These are all things that are very easy to help surface to your users. And then, of course, probably one of the most important in terms of helping someone seamlessly execute their day is task. So I'm going to wrap up here before we move on into apps and automation. So absolutely, hands down, 100% when you're talking about task, it is important that prioritization of tasks, it's not a guessing game, right? This could be, I think it's important for someone to understand what they need to get done in the day, because that helps meet the employees' goals, the store goals, and the corporate goals. So it's very important that a user can understand what tasks that they need to get done. So I can take a look here at Megan's task, and I immediately have a clear view of tasks that are late, tasks that I need to get completed today. And you saw in notifications this required barista training, so need to make sure that I get that done. And then tasks that I have upcoming as well. These can be published tasks that are coming down from corporate that can easily be tracked. These could be tasks coming down from the store or from the region. Again, lots of flexibility in terms of how you set this up, but very easy for me to go in here as a user and update this and making sure that I'm doing what I need to do. And now you saw that it disappeared from today. So very quick touch of a button things and making sure that as a frontline worker in Contoso Coffee that I'm getting done what I need to. All right, so with that, that is the view about just the generalized seamless execution of the day. And I think probably most of you have more than likely probably seen a little bit about that. So now I want to just quickly touch on streamlining that productivity with apps and automation. Okay, so I am going to go to, so now we're going to talk about inspections. So with the inspections app, again, this is an app that is a template available to you to start using today. And this is always, whenever I do these demos, this one always lands really well. And when you think about inspections, think about store walks, distribution center safety walks, manufacturing safety walks, audits. Really, your options are endless in terms of what to use this for, but I generally have customers that get really excited about these inspections. So here for Contoso Coffee, I have a list of, so this is kind of a roll-up of the region in terms of it's the same inspections that happen across all of the stores. So I'm going to select Citrus Park. And I'm going to select store opening inspection because Megan, I'm working that for shift. I can see a picture of my store, so I know that I've selected the right inspection. And I'm going to go ahead and complete this inspection. Oops, sorry. Let me do that again. There we go. I don't know why the button wasn't showing up before. Maybe I didn't scroll down far enough. Anyways, I think I didn't scroll down far enough. So my bad about that. Okay, so now here we are with our inspection list. And this is very powerful. And again, this is an app that's available to you out of the box as a template that you can start using today. So as a user, I now have the guesswork taken out, right? So I don't have a piece of paper that's telling me what to do step by step. I am simply going through my inspection here and I am saying, this looks okay, this looks okay. Oh, you know what? We have a display case issue. And I could take a picture of this and just excuse me because I am going to take a picture of my floor. I know that's not exciting, but you're going to get the gist. And this photo that I am going to take it gives me the option where I'm able to annotate this or ink it. So, I could say, here we have cracked glass. We're going to pretend like that's cracked display glass. And I have the ability to actually attach that. And you can see here the photo's been attached. I also have the ability to add a note to state that there was an actual issue, save that note, and then I am able to just pretend like we're doing our store walk here for the coffee shop, and I'm going to go ahead and review, and I'm going to submit that. So you can see here's a list of all the everything that I did. The issue is noted, and I'm going to go ahead and submit that inspection. And then on the back end, that's actually going to roll up, and it's going to notify whoever needs to be notified of that issue. And then on the back end of this, there's a task list that's set up to ensure that those issues are remediated. So very powerful app at your fingertips. There's also, as you saw when I opened up, so there's the inspections app, but there's also these other apps that are available to me. For example, one of them is updates. So I have shown you what inspections look like, but then there's also an updates app, which is also a Power App. Again, a template available to you that's already embedded inside of Teams that you just have to set up here. And the Updates app allows me to submit any type of update. So whether it's a quick update or whether it is, there's a plethora of templates. Again, these are all set up for you. Shift handoff notes, for example. I can easily go in here and I can include a shift handoff note, and I can say who this needs to go to the viewer. So, right, I know who's on shift. I'm able to go ahead and quickly add them, and then I can go ahead and include my notes for that shift handoff. So, right, for example, 86, blueberry muffins. You can also see here, so my submission, like you can see my shift handoff down here at the bottom, and then you can also see one that's been assigned for me. So waste and sustainability management. So I got assigned that from my manager, something that I need to complete, and that was also actually included in my notifications. Again, third-party apps that are available to you. There are lots that are in the store, and then I'm just gonna go ahead and wrap up here. I want to show you the power of the bot. So I have my favorite coffee buddy here, and this really helps me think about bots is just another layer to help your frontline workforce get information faster, real-time information when they need it. So if I was chatting with a customer and they were specifically asking me, there was a coffee with cherry tasting notes, for example. Oops, if I can type. I'm going to go ahead and just put in a keyword for cherry. All right, I think I'm having bandwidth issues again. All right, well, my coffee buddy's being a little slow. Apparently my coffee buddy needs coffee. So what would actually come up here, I'm just going to show you. So let me just scroll back and actually show you this does work. So you can see here it's pulling back the Colombia Buenos Aires decaf, and it's giving me everything about this coffee that I need to know as a barista. So where it's farmed, the altitude, the roasting method, the tasting notes, and also allows me to, there's a link that allows me to get more information, and then also what it retails for. So lots of great information at your fingertips, roasting philosophy, sourcing, all of that goodness. Even think about it from a standpoint of if there's HR as well. And I know I'm running a little bit short on time, and Frida has some amazing things to show you. So the only other thing that really quick that I'm going to show you, and I'm going to wrap up here, is that also from an employee engagement standpoint, it's really important that we're engaging our employees at work because they're more likely to feel motivated, committed, and invested, and just increase their job satisfaction overall through that engagement. And really how we do that is to make sure that their voice is heard, they feel like they're contributing in a way that really allows them, to feel like they're able to submit their ideas. So there's an ideas app. That's another option that's here where they're allowed to upvote and contribute ideas, browse these campaigns to make sure that their voice is being heard and they're actually contributing to the overall improvement of the store. Again, really contributing at the end of the day to overall satisfaction, not for the employee, but also overall for the company as well. And then also, a community as well. So I have a coffee crew community here. And this really allows them to contribute to the conversation, not only contribute to the conversation in a very easy way across all stores, but also allows them to get their questions answered, find an expert, I had a customer that said, we absolutely love Engage, aka Yammer. It helps our large company feel smaller. I also have this, it's my customer, very large customer. They are a large global customer, and their CEO actually goes down into the stores, into their communities, says happy birthday to them, recognizes their anniversaries. It's absolutely amazing. Can you imagine how that individual feels with that type of engagement, really humanizing leadership in that way, and sending that praise through this capability that's available at the fingertips of your hands and also for your frontline workers' hands. So again, just to wrap up, there are so many different ways. I couldn't even touch all of them because we don't have enough time for today, but you can empower your frontline workforce in one place and keeping them in their flow of work. And you saw today, just in this very brief demo, just how absolutely easy that is. And with that, I am going to stop and hand it over to Frida to wrap us up for today.
Thank you, Kelly. That was awesome. And I love that you really showed all of the sort of core capability that we provide and build on it a little bit, leveraging Power Automate and some of the other M365 functionality. I am going to try to take control of presenting. Brianna, from you, so you don't have to advance slides for me. And I wanted to spend some time just talking about extensibility and leveraging our platform to further transform how your people are working and engaging with each other, and also engaging with your customers. I just want to give a brief overview of the platform. And Brianna, it's not letting me take control, so I will ask you to just advance the slide if you don't mind. Oh, okay, let me present then. Oh, awesome. Thank you so much. So just the power of the platform, sort of, I like to distill down into sort of two major buckets. One is kind of this ready to use bucket, and that's really, all the Office 365 applications and the Microsoft ecosystem you can access through Teams. And you can do that both on an individual basis for the work that maybe you have to do as an individual, and then in your collaboration spaces. So while you're in a chat or a channel or in a meeting like this, being able to access the Office 365 tools in order to get your work done. Building on that with our app ecosystem, I mentioned earlier, there's actually over 1,600 applications and integrations available today for Microsoft Teams, and these span lots of core functionality and services that I'm sure your organizations are using today. There's just a couple of partners that I put up on this slide here, but I encourage everybody to take a look at the Teams App Store and at Microsoft App Source to learn more about the integrations that are available. And then moving up to this other bucket around custom applications and thinking, what is sort of the secret source and organizational specific workflows and tools that you use in order to get your work done. So, if you think of how do we onboard new employees, what are the tools and technologies and workflows that those users have to touch? And could we move that into Teams through a single pane of glass and add collaboration into the mix? How do people get help and support? What does it look like when we need to request an approval? All of that functionality can be lit up in Teams. Some of this leveraging our out-of-the-box capability for approvals. I think Kelly showed this just a little bit earlier. We actually have approval workflow built directly into Teams. These can even integrate with other systems that are core to that type of workflow, like e-signature services. So if you use something like DocuSign, you could integrate that directly into the approval functionality that we provide out of the box in Teams. And then I think really with the most exciting opportunity is in these vertical specific solutions. And obviously, we're talking today to retail customers, and there's some patterns and practices that we've seen emerge here. If you think of buy online and pick up in store, we've seen that workflow really transform leveraging Teams, where your customers can go ahead and make a purchase online through your store website, through your e-commerce options. That can kick off a workflow that sends a message to store employees that a new order has been submitted and that it needs to be ready in this amount of time. And it can create a task, and all of that can come to your employees in Teams. It can connect to your other systems so that a user, an employee just picks up that request, completes that request, updates that request in Teams. It writes back to all of your other systems of record, and ultimately helps your customer pick up their order that they made in a timely fashion and have a great experience. We're going to show you some examples of this in just a minute, but it's really exciting to think about the power that you can unleash because you've enabled Teams for your users. If we can move to the next slide, Brianna. just a little bit more about leveraging the platform. I think the really big opportunity with Teams is the fact that you can add collaboration into the mix of your workflows and your tools. And so now when we've brought people together in the team and channel structure, like Allison and Kelly had shown you a little bit earlier, right, we can also add the tools that people need in order to get their work done. And this really transforms how people stay connected and how productive users are. We think that there's lots of opportunity here through all of the Microsoft ecosystem. We didn't talk a ton about some of the other suite today, like Viva and Power Platform, although you did see some examples of it. But obviously, you can extend those experiences into Teams for our Viva Employee Experience Platform. These are all actually modules that are Teams apps that users would access in Teams. And then this third-party app that we talked about a little bit earlier as well, really showing, like, allowing people to access things like task functionality that maybe lives in another system of record, like Jira or Monday.com or whatever systems you might be using, and having that show up in Teams as a tab in a channel, or that they can access information when they're typing a message to another user. And then creating line of business applications, right? Things that are bespoke and specific to your users. And I can show you some examples of this too in just a minute. But if you don't mind moving to the next slide, Brianna. Here's just some examples of what this looks like actually in practice, right? So I've got this team together. We're going to go ahead and talk about things. I've pinned a couple of tabs here within this specific channel. One of these is a task management tab. In this case, this is Planner, but this could be a third-party system that you use, or if it's something bespoke that you use that you make available for your users in Teams. Ooh, Brand, do you mind just going back one? Thank you. Here's another example, and this one's really, really simple to understand. Making a Word document available to folks as they're collaborating within a channel. So now you can create and co-author on content directly from within Teams. And you can do this not only from the desktop and the web application, but also on mobile devices. No worries. I'll let you move to the next slide. Thanks so much, Brianna, for helping me out here. We can actually move to the next slide as well, too. Great. And so just this idea of building out great collaborative apps, obviously the key is to identify a real business problem and real business need. Think about ways that you can enhance the scenario or meet the challenge that you've identified by creating a collaborative experience. So bringing people together in the right context to get their work done. Obviously being able to create versus consume, make sure that these are high value scenarios. And then by making this available in Teams for users, right, you really optimize the ability for people to be able to access and use these things on a consistent basis. What I'd like to do now is actually switch to a video. And this is actually something that a partner of ours has built out for Microsoft Teams. The partner is called Sync, and they've built tons of really interesting integrations and automation, leveraging the Teams platform. And these are all geared towards transforming the retail experience. And I'm super excited to show this to you because I think Sync makes they're a great example of how you can use Teams to transform retail specific workflows. So give me 1 second, I'm going to share my screen here. And hopefully everybody will be able to hear. All right. Is everybody able to see? Awesome. Okay, let me play this video.
Hey everyone, it's Nolan with Sync. We are here for the Retail Customer Hub. We're going to go through a bunch of different software applications that are all driven within Microsoft Teams that are going to provide associates with better tools to work within frontline work and retail. And we're also going to show you how to empower your customer with these tools for them to communicate back and forth in a safe and audible manner. What we're going to do is we're going to show some really low barrier stuff. We're going to look at the lowest barrier, which is text messaging for the customer, and we're going to show text to Teams. So the customer thinks that they're texting back and forth with an associate, but the associate is going to be fully within Teams. They're never going to leave Teams, and there's going to be privacy between the customer's text message number not being given to the associate within Teams. What we're then going to do is we're going to show how that evolves from texting, which is cool and is a low barrier, but is a bit clumsy in terms of all that texting has to be done. And we'll look at leveraging data that we have in different parts of the customer journey, such as curbside, evolve that further into making our requests in stores from customers really, really specific. Specific means a couple of things. Instead of using a call button, which makes me shiver almost as much as returns in terms of a retail process, instead of saying customer service randomly to the bakery, we're going to be able to say to the customer, what do you need in bakery? Do you want a cake? What do you want for the custard? What do you want for the topping? We're going to get the customer to engage in different technologies to expedite their process in the store, give them better customer service, and give them the assurance that what they want is what they really want in the store. We'll further then take that technology and that approach of getting the customer to assist in the transaction. And again, instead of hitting those awful call buttons that go over the radio headsets and the paging systems, what we're going to do is we're going to say, instead of randomly come and help a customer in aisle 142 because we want something out of a locking showcase or Claritin, when that customer requests customer service to the aisle that's got all those decongestants, instead of saying just randomly come and help me in this aisle and maybe there's 2 or 3 people in the aisle and who knows what person hit the call button and actually wants the help, we'll say, here's all of the inventories and the on-hands of all those decongestants. We can learn a little bit more about those items, and when we decide that's the Claritin, for example, that I want as a customer, I'm going to tell the associate with an adaptive card through a web application, low barrier, no download for the customer. We're going to be able to tell the associate exactly what the customer wants, as opposed to that slow transaction waiting for the associate to come around the corner and help the customer. And what I've given you is some pretty basic understanding of friction in stores. We all know the locking showcase is friction, but sometimes friction actually comes in different form factors. What might be a really cool experience to a customer, like a full service deli case or a full service meat counter, might not actually be something that's appealing to other particular customers in the store. So instead of that current state whereby I got to take a number and being served in the deli and waiting for those 7 or 8 people in front of me, I can scan a QR code and I can request those items out of the deli, out of the bakery, out of the full service meat case, and I can shop and be productive in my journey through the entire shopping relationship and have that stuff brought up to customer service, a locker, check stand 3, whatever makes sense for the operation. Furthermore to friction can also just be that the product is not on the shelf. I don't know how many times people have gone to a website looking for the quantities in stock, and all of a sudden you drive all the way to that store with the assurance that there's going to be 3 on hand and there's nothing on the home location. We would then overcome the friction from the empty hole in the shelf as opposed to it being a locked showcase. Nothing says friction worse than returns. It's also just a massive labor draw to the customer service desk. They're a challenge. They're not very fun and exciting. A lot of returns are ineligible, and there's a tough conversation that has to happen there. So we'll look at returns as an application, again, for the customer to expedite their time and have their time respected in store best, but to lower the amount of cost that it takes to a store in assisting with returns, many of which are ineligible. And the last one here is a hybrid. So the hybrid here is, again, depending on your comfort level in terms of what you want to deploy or how you want to crawl, walk, and run, but that's a call button replacement. So getting rid of those awful call buttons, half the time they don't even work. There are those little silly battery operated things that make the radio chime and radio headset calls. There's no data in them whatsoever than just a random, please go to this various section of the store. But to replace and modernize and digitize the call button with a QR code that the customer can leverage on their own customer phone, scan that QR code and show them, hey, I'm the customer and I'm needing help right here in this location of the store. Microsoft Teams adaptive card to go and assist that customer and bi-directionally communicate with them. So let's take a look at some of these texts for help. So now I'm going to go into my dashboard. I'm a store manager and my staff have come to me and said, hey, grad is coming up. We're getting inundated with requests for flowers and corsages. We're getting inundated with party platters and the rest of it. Is there any way that we can work within the store to try to facilitate some better communication on all of these requests for upcoming grad? So I'm going to go into my dashboard here and I'm going to type the word grad. So that's going to allow me to pull up all my Microsoft Teams channels, and as we add and manage channels within Teams, they automatically reflect on our side. And I'm going to go in here with my keyword grad. I'm going to say, you know what, this is going to be garden center for all these corsages that we need. And I'm simply just going to add that custom keyword. I can now automatically download signage, different colors. I can go through different templates. I can enable a QR code. So you just scan the QR code and it automatically takes the phone number and the keyword, which in this case is grad. And I'm going to download that signage. put it through my printer, and I'm going to be able to deploy that solution right into my store right away and solve that problem with that customer associate conversation. So now as a customer, I'm going to be able to either type the word grad and send it to that number, or I can just scan the QR code and it's going to actually automatically put grad in my subject heading, and it's going to bot respond back to me. Thank you for using Text for Help service. What was your question today? And this is the ability for me to say that I'm looking for a corsage. Now, I haven't actually been notified in Microsoft Teams because there's no point in over notifying us. But as soon as I type, I'm looking for a corsage, that's then going to show up as a Microsoft Teams notification. You're actually probably going to hear it in the background. There's that Microsoft Teams notification that now I can go and I can assist that customer. I might not even go down to the flow department. I might be able to communicate back and forth either on a desktop PC with Teams running or through a ruggedized device within the store. But I can help that customer without all of this footsteps involved if I can, and it's best for me just to help that customer through their request. You'll notice that the entire transaction for the associate is all within Microsoft Teams, and that at no point in time did the associate see my telephone number. So that's super low bar because texting is about as ubiquitous as we can imagine for a customer experience and not having to get technical with the customer device. But we can start to get a little bit more clever, and that's how I transition into curbside. So with curbside, I just hate seeing all these signs at retail locations that say, arrive for curbside, phone this number, hit this extension. That's an analog experience for a digital customer. That customer chose to be a digital customer. These stores were open to the public. They wanted to be a digital customer. They did an online e-commerce order. Let's not then turn them into an analog customer at the very end, the last thing that they're going to remember. Embed a token within the confirmation for pickup email, and by tapping that I'm here button within the confirmation for pickup email, I, the associate, I'm going to get an adaptive card. When I claim that, I'm going to get all the information about the customer, their name, their order number, how many bags, whatever that information is that we need to provide to the associate that's pertinent. And as I progress through the adaptive card, I'm going to gamify and notify the customer that I'm working on it, that they're being taken care of, and at the very last moment, it's going to say, I'm heading out to your car now, please open your trunk. You'll actually note that there is a Microsoft success story for what we've done with curbside and adaptive cards, and the link is here in the bottom. But then as we evolve from texting to leveraging things like curbside and the data that's available, we actually start to look at how we can empower the associate and the customer even more so within the brick and mortar experience. And one of the best ways to look at that is through requesting high value products, out of stock products, or items that are high cube. So display only, big boxes, they don't fit in carts, and the inventory is usually in the back room or at a front display that's only accessible by staff. So again, instead of hitting those awful call buttons, we scan the QR code and we can tell the associate the exact SKU that we want. We can verify the inventory. We have assurance that that item is going to be in stock for us, and we can keep shopping in the store. Like generally takes about 7 to 12 minutes for a customer to make it from a high value location or a high cube location or an out of stock location, make it to point of sale, make their way through the queuing lane and go through POS. That's actually buying the retailer 7 to 12 minutes of operational efficiency to go and get that product for the customer. And by the time the customer is out of POS environment, we're actually ready, queued up, ready for a locker, a curbside, a pickup that's going to go out to the car. Really blows the customer away in terms of the experience, and it saves us a ton of labor on the labor side. Because if you compare the difference between a customer using a call button, we actually spend about 12 minutes of labor to leave the task that we were doing, make our way over to aisle 26 for customer service, find that random customer that hit that call button, assist the customer in terms of what they want, grab those keys, unlock that showcase, and then what we do, not to circumnavigate our process for loss prevention, but is to lock it up and then walk it up. So now we escort the customer to the till. So that not only is a terrible experience for the customer, it's poor efficiency in terms of footsteps. When we go and we digitize these experiences and we throw those awful call buttons out, we go from a 12-minute transaction in terms of labor to 4 minutes. Now, in just the same way where we're leveraging the customer to become one of the strongest associates in the store, we can now leverage that as well for returns. So many returns just don't meet eligibility. We're at the wrong store, the return is outside the days of return in terms of policy. The item might be something that gets returned directly to the vendor. There are so many instances whereby we unfortunately have customers stand in line, frustrated with that returns process, only to get to the desk to realize that that time was completely wasted because their return didn't meet eligibility or needs to go through a different process. So with returns, in the same way that we empower the customer to be part of the process with high value products, high cube products, out of stocks, We allow the customer to scan their receipt, which then alleviates a lot of the challenges around eligibility. We can pull all that information digitally off the receipt, and 30% of the work of the return can be done just by looking at the date, the items, store location, etc. If we can get past all those thresholds as the customer selects the item, if all of a sudden we see from that initial eligibility testing that that's a good return to come back to the store, we can then look at the customer selecting the item on their receipt to make sure that that's a return that comes to the store and doesn't get returned to the vendor. Effectively then, 70% of the return is done. The customer can take a picture of the product and they can either dump it into a dump bin if we're going to do an honor system, or we can take a picture of it, which would then allocate a locker, as you'll see in the video, leave the item in the locker, and at a time when it works for the store staff and staffing and the unschedulable that we have to face in frontline work, we can get to those returns as we need. Swipe left because it met the return eligibility, or swipe right because it wasn't the actual item and returned, it was a box full of sand. And last, to round this out, we're going to look at a call button replacements. And then we can take a step back and maybe look that we're maybe not ready as an organization to get to the customer being so participative. Because what we can end up doing for call buttons is we can create digital call buttons. So you'll see in the call for help component of the dashboard, we can go in here and we can create call buttons for any part of the store, which not only creates a nomenclature for where to head, but we can also then associate that request to different Microsoft Teams channels within Teams. You can see one I've got in the dashboard right now. I can now download the QR display. It's that same process that you saw before with text for help. And when I download this, it's much simpler. It's just, do you need assistance? There's no texting, there's no words, and we've elevated out of texting into a web application. And as soon as I scan this QR code, the ease and simplicity of this is that that's going to identify that I'm a customer within this naming convention nomenclature of the area. And I simply just say, I need help with the deli counter. So we've been able to digitize this. You heard that Microsoft Teams message that's come through. I can go in through this Microsoft Teams message and we're going to gamify and keep engaged our customer the entire step of the way, that we've got help on the way, and that we're maintaining your trip assurance. So there you have it. That was 5, 6, 7 introductions in terms of the 19 things that we do with the Microsoft Teams and Sync. That took us from the basics of text, elevating that into curbside with some of that curbside data, getting into some customer specifics in terms of items within locking showcases, and then taking a bit of a step back and saying, what do we do with all those awful call buttons? Is there a better way? There's a much better way to do this, and we'll have all those online for you to take a look at. So there you have it. Nolan with Sync. Thank you so much for having us on the Retail Customer Hub. Reach out to us anytime, and we're going to show you how you can empower your associates with Teams and empower your customers to be more productive in stores.
Awesome. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that video. I think that it's a great example of sort of leveraging the power of our platform, right, and bringing together, sort of digitizing these processes that are historically maybe very cumbersome, and allowing customers, right, your customers to quickly and easily find and access and get help, right, so that they can hopefully have successful purchases and a great experience within your store, and even when they're shopping at home, and then leveraging Teams and allowing your employees to access information, requests, workflow to help support the customer experience. I think it's a great example of like unleashing the power of the Teams platform in order to transform retail scenarios. So hopefully everybody enjoyed that. With that, I'm actually going to turn over to Brianna, who I think has a poll for the participants here, and then some more information, and then we can dig into Q&A.